The identity and enmity of Abu Lahab. Introduction and family relations. Abu Lahab was the paternal uncle of Prophet Muhammad, and his wife, Jamil, was the Prophet's aunt by marriage. Despite their close kinship, this husband and wife were among the most dangerous and unyielding enemies of Prophet Muhammad. Just as exemplary companions were at the absolute forefront of loving the Prophet and validating his truthfulness, Abu Lahab and his wife stood at the absolute forefront of denying him, mocking his message, and causing him severe distress. The meaning and origin of the name Abu Lahab. From a worldly perspective, Abu Lahab was considered highly fortunate by the standards of his society. His real name was Abdul Uzza, which translates to the servant of the idol Uzza. Because his birth name was rooted in polytheism, it was deliberately excluded from the Quran. Instead, the text references his kunyat, or patronymic title, Abu Lahab. There are two primary historical explanations for how he acquired this title. Physical appearance. He possessed striking physical features and an exceptionally fair complexion. In Arabic tradition, when an individual is extremely fair, a reddish, radiant glow reflects from their skin. Because the literal Arabic word for the red flame of a fire is lahab, he became widely known as Abu Lahab, meaning father of the flame. Immense wealth. Historical accounts note that he possessed an overwhelming abundance of gold, to the extent of filling an entire room. The ambient light reflecting off massive quantities of gold creates a deep yellowish-red hue resembling fire. Consequently, the title was also attributed to his possession of vast riches that mirrored the coloration of a blazing flame. His worldly advantages. Abu Lahab held an enviable position within pre-Islamic Meccan society due to several distinct advantages. Lineage. He was a prominent member of the Quraysh, the most noble and influential tribe in the entire Arab region, the very tribe honored by a dedicated chapter in the Quran, Surah Quraysh. Parentage. He was the direct son of Abdul Muttalib, the highly respected chief and grandfather of Prophet Muhammad. Aesthetics. He was blessed with exceptional physical beauty and presence. Affluence. He commanded vast financial fortunes and properties. Proximity. He was biologically the paternal uncle of Prophet Muhammad and was further blessed with a large family and several children. The infant nursing of the Prophet. Prophet Muhammad's father passed away before his birth. During his infancy, one of the women who nursed him was Thalbiya, a bondwoman belonging to Abu Lahab. Classical biographical texts note that a total of 8 women nursed the Prophet during his early childhood: his biological mother, Amina Thalbiya, the bondwoman of Abu Lahab, Khawla bint Mundir Sadiya, a distinct nurse, not Halima. 3 women whose historical names are recorded as Atika Halima Sadiya. For the first 7 days of his life, the Prophet was nursed by his mother, Amina. Following this initial period, Thalbiya nursed him for 8 days. By historical coincidence, another paternal uncle of the Prophet, Hazrat Hamza, was also nursed by Thalbiya. Consequently, Prophet Muhammad and Hazrat Hamza were not only uncle and nephew, but were also milk brothers. The act of emancipation and its afterlife consequences. When Prophet Muhammad was born, Thalbiya rushed to Abu Lahab to deliver the glad tidings, announcing, "A boy has been born in the house of your late brother, Abdullah." Overjoyed by the news of his nephew's birth, Abu Lahab immediately gestured toward her and declared, "Go, I have set you free." A year after Abu Lahab's death, his brother saw him in a dream. Abu Lahab was experiencing intense agony and severe spiritual distress. When asked about his condition, Abu Lahab responded, "After my death, I have seen no comfort at all, except that on Mondays, the punishment is slightly lightened for me." The historical explanation provided for this reprieve is that because the Prophet was born on a Monday, and Abu Lahab had emancipated his bondwoman out of pure joy for that birth, he receives a minor concession. Certain narrations specify that he indicated that a minute amount of water, only as much as can rest upon the tip of a finger, is granted to him to drink every Monday. The relief is received through the exact finger he used to gesture when freeing Thalbiya, demonstrating how a temporary act of joy regarding the Prophet's birth yielded a minor mitigation of his severe punishment in the afterlife, despite his ultimate fate as a disbeliever. The hostility of Abu Lahab and the public invitation to Islam. Active enmity, and the suppression of truth. Abu Lahab was the very first person from among the close family of Prophet Muhammad to stand up in active, aggressive enmity against his message. Despite the deeply ingrained traditions of Arab society, which mandated fierce loyalty and protection for one's own relatives, his hatred for the message of monotheism overrode all family ties. Whenever the Prophet traveled to public gatherings, marketplaces, or tribal campsites to invite people to faith, Abu Lahab would follow closely behind him. He openly insulted the Prophet and loudly warned the crowds, "Do not listen to him, he is a liar." This persistent public humiliation caused immense emotional distress to the Prophet, coming from his own flesh and blood. The first miracle of the public outreach. When the divine command was revealed directing Prophet Muhammad to openly warn his closest relatives and clan members, the Prophet instructed his young cousin to prepare a modest feast. The provisions gathered for this gathering were meager: a single foreleg of a goat, a bowl of milk, approximately 3.5 kilograms of grain. By the standards of hospitality at the time, this amount of food was barely sufficient to satisfy 1 or 2 adult men. Once the food was prepared, the Prophet invited the entire leadership of his clan, the Banu Abdul Muttalib. 40 grown men assembled for the meal. Before they began eating, the Prophet took the leg of the goat, broke a small piece with his teeth, and placed it back into the dish. He then instructed the guests, "Take the name of God and begin eating." Through this act, an extraordinary miracle of abundance occurred. All 40 men ate from the single portion until they were completely full and satisfied. Yet the platter of food and the bowl of milk remained completely undiminished, appearing exactly as they had before the meal began. The disruption of the first gathering. This strategic feast was designed to soften the hearts of the clan leaders and create an receptive environment to discuss faith. However, as soon as the meal concluded and the Prophet stood up to deliver his message, Abu Lahab immediately intervened. He loudly addressed the assembly, stating, "Come on, get up from here. He has cast a spell of magic over your food. We have never seen such sorcery before." By instantly labeling the miracle as magic, Abu Lahab successfully panicked the guests. The entire gathering broke up and left the house immediately, preventing the Prophet from uttering a single word of guidance on that first day. The second invitation and the declaration of support. Undeterred, Prophet Muhammad ordered the exact same meal to be prepared the following day and re-invited the clan. This time, as the meal concluded, the Prophet spoke swiftly before anyone could disrupt the gathering. He addressed them with profound earnestness. "O children of Abdul Muttalib, I know of no young man who has brought a better plan for his people than the invitation I have brought to you. I am your sincere well-wisher for your success in this world and the afterlife." He then specifically called out his immediate relatives to emphasize personal accountability before God, warning them that family lineage alone would not save them from divine judgment. "O descendants of Abdul Muttalib, O Abbas, O my aunt Safiya, O my daughter Fatima, protect yourselves from the fire, because I hold no independent power to save you from the grasp of God. However, you may ask for whatever you wish from my personal worldly wealth. Believe truly, this is the invitation to the religion of truth. Who among you will stand by me, and who will prove to be my brother?" A heavy, tense silence fell over the entire room. None of the elder clan chiefs or seasoned warriors spoke. Breaking the silence, the young cousin who had prepared the meal stood up and declared, "O messenger of God, I will stand by you." The Prophet took him by the hand and announced to the gathering, "He shall be my brother and helper. O people, listen to him and respect his words." Upon hearing this, Abu Lahab turned to the young man's father, laughing mockingly, and said, "Listen to that. Will you now obey your own young son?" He burst into a loud, derogatory laugh, completely disrupting the solemnity of the meeting, and the gathering once again ended in chaos. The revelation of Surah Al-Lahab and the sudden demise of Abu Lahab, the severe insult and the divine response. The animosity of Abu Lahab reached a breaking point during a public gathering where he openly mocked the concept of accountability after death. Showing his bare hands to the people around him, he remarked with deep cynicism, "He tells people that such and such will happen after we die. May you be ruined. I do not see any of those promises inside my own hands." By projecting his own spiritual blindness onto the message of Islam, he committed a severe insult against the honor of Prophet Muhammad. His exact public exclamation was recorded as an explicit curse against the prophet's mission. In immediate defense of his prophet, God revealed Surah Al-Lahab, chapter 111 of the Quran, permanently etching Abu Lahab's condemnation into history, while our text, Tabat Yada Abi Lahabin wa Tabba. Translation: May the hands of Abu Lahab be ruined, and ruined is he. The chapter further explicitly stripped away the two worldly foundations Abu Lahab relied upon, his immense fortune and his social status. Text: Ma agna ranhu malahu wa ma kasaba. Translation: Neither his wealth nor his earnings benefited him. Finally, matching his worldly title to his eternal sentence, the divine decree sealed his fate. Text: Sayasla naran dhata lahab. Translation: He will safely enter a fire of blazing flame. The aftermath of the Battle of Badr. Abu Lahab and his wife spent their remaining years in Makkah completely consumed by this bitter opposition. When the Prophet migrated to Medina and the historic Battle of Badr took place in the second year after migration, Abu Lahab chose not to join the Meccan army personally due to fear and illness, instead paying a debtor to take his place. When the broken remnants of the Quraysh army returned to Makkah with news of their catastrophic defeat and the deaths of major leaders like Abu Jahl, Abu Lahab was struck with profound shock and overwhelming grief. An exemplary and terrible demise. Just 7 days after the Battle of Badr, the worldly manifestation of the Quranic curse struck Abu Lahab. A severe, painful boil appeared under his armpit. In historical Arabic medical terminology, this specific virulent disease is known as adsa, which was a highly fatal and fast-moving form of the plague. The primary characteristic of this affliction was the rapid decomposition of tissue, causing a horrific, overpowering odor to emanate from the patient's body while they were still alive. Because the disease was highly feared, a terrifying panic swept through his household. Fearing that the illness was naturally contagious and would jump to anyone who came near, his own sons, his extended family, and his wife completely abandoned him. They fled his mansion, locking him away to suffer in total isolation. Abu Lahab died alone in his home, surrounded by immense wealth that could not buy him a single doctor, a comforting hand, or a sip of water. His body lay inside the empty room for days, rotting and emitting a stench so severe that it filled the entire neighborhood, serving as an exemplary and humiliating end for a man who was once celebrated as the pinnacle of Meccan beauty, wealth, and pride. The tragic burial and Islamic perspectives on disease and destiny. The humiliating disposal of the body. For 3 full days after his death, Abu Lahab's body lay rotting inside his home. None of his sons or relatives would approach the corpse because they were terrified of the foul odor and the deadly nature of the plague that killed him. Eventually, the neighborhood grew furious over the intense stench filling the streets and began berating his sons for abandoning their own father. Driven by deep shame rather than love, his sons hired laborers to handle the body. Out of sheer terror of touching the corpse directly, the men did not wash or prepare the body according to traditional customs. They used long wooden poles and sticks from a distance to drag the decomposing body out of the house. They pushed the remains into a shallow trench dug outside Makkah. Instead of covering the grave by hand, they stood at a distance and threw heavy stones and dirt over the body until it was completely buried beneath a pile of rocks. In this way, the warning of the Quran was physically fulfilled in this world. His immense wealth, his high status, and his noble sons could not provide him with a dignified burial. Correcting misconceptions about illness and destiny. The historical abandonment of Abu Lahab highlights a vital theological lesson within Islam regarding how a believer must view disease. The panic displayed by his family, the belief that an illness automatically passes from one person to another by its own power, runs contrary to Islamic belief. In Islam, no disease possesses the independent power to infect or harm anyone. An illness only strikes an individual if it is explicitly written in their divine destiny, and if it is not written, no exposure can cause it. To maintain healthy communities while keeping a pure belief, the Prophet Muhammad provided clear, practical guidelines regarding severe outbreaks. When you hear that a plague has broken out in a land, do not enter it. And if the plague breaks out in a place while you are already present there, do not leave that place. The practical and spiritual wisdom of quarantine. Islamic scholars highlight two primary reasons for this strict prohibition against fleeing a plague-stricken area. Community care and duty. If every healthy person panicked and fled a diseased city, there would be no one left to nurse the sick, provide medical aid, or manage the honorable washing, shrouding, and burial of those who pass away. Preservation of faith. Fleeing or entering a plague area can easily corrupt a person's core beliefs. If a person enters a city and falls ill, they might mistakenly believe, "Going to that city is what caused my sickness," completely forgetting that God alone decrees health and trials. Conversely, if they flee a city and survive, they might arrogantly believe their own actions saved them from death. A believer must maintain the firm conviction that whatever is written in their destiny will inevitably come to pass. The scenarios of travel. During an outbreak, to provide clarity on everyday life during a health crisis, classical scholars outline three distinct scenarios regarding travel near an outbreak zone. Scenario: motive for travel, Islamic ruling, fleeing in panic, running away from a diseased area purely out of the belief that escape will bypass divine destiny. Strictly forbidden, prior travel plans, leaving an area because of a business trip, family obligation, or pre-booked travel arranged before the outbreak occurred. Permissible. The intent is not based on fear or fleeing. Medical and relief work, entering or moving within an area specifically to provide healthcare, food distribution, or essential services. Permissible and highly rewarded. Ultimately, Islam teaches that if a family member falls ill at home, they must never be detested, shunned, or abandoned as Abu Lahab was. Instead, family members should draw close, take reasonable precautions, and serve them with compassion, as caring for the sick holds immense spiritual reward.